Friends, we may or may not be live. We're just trying this out. So bear with us for a moment if you're just tuning in. And we will get started in just a moment. Here we are. Well, welcome, friends. We are so excited you could join us for this, our very first Care for Cooped Up Parents session here at the Kansas Children's Discovery Center. My name is Laura Burton. I'm our Director of Marketing here at the Discovery Center. The Discovery Center is, of course, in Topeka, Kansas, for those of you who are joining us from different spots. We're a children's museum, and since our closure in response to this crisis in mid-March, we have been producing daily at-home video content at kansasdiscovery.org/home. And so we're going to be bringing you lots of exciting content related to that program. And tonight we are very pleased to have a special guest with us. This is Susan Voorhees. She's been a longtime supporter of ours at the Discovery Center. She is a licensed psychologist in private practice here in Topeka. She specializes in child psychology. She is currently a psychological consultant to the Shawnee County and Northeast Kansas Tiny K programs. She has a very long history of involvement in community organizations, including at the Kansas Children's Discovery Center, where she's been a volunteer with us in many capacities. Board member, fundraiser, works a lot on our Puzzle Pieces program. And those of you who are regular visitors at the front desk on Sundays have probably seen Susan many times. So we're very blessed to have her support in many ways. And tonight she's joining us. Thank you so much for being here, Susan.
Thank you very much, Laura, for having me.
So we wanted to bring you on board because we have heard, as we've been bringing out our video content, lots of parents talking about how challenging it is to parent in this environment. Many of them are seeking support. Many of them are dealing with intensive issues. And so I wonder if you could just start us off, and our live viewers, of course, you can ask questions of Susan as well at any time tonight. We have a couple different ways to do that, by the way. You can either message us on our Facebook page if you prefer to have a question without your name attached, or you can comment on the Facebook video. And either way, I'll get those questions and I'll patch those along to Susan. So either one of those is great. But Susan, I wonder if you could start us off just by sharing a few of your thoughts about this crisis, parenting in this crisis, what you know that's looking like for parents. Start us off with some thoughts on that.
So I think it really is a unique experience for everybody. I am going to challenge you a little bit on the use of the word crisis, because I think that puts us into a very negative frame of mind. And I'm not going to downplay that it is a crisis, but it also is an opportunity for families to maybe take a look at the way their families operate, the way they operate as parents, how their kids interact with them, and to keep a more positive outlook on this as we go through it. I think it's going to make a significant change in everybody's lives. We're not going to be the same when we come to the other end of this crisis, this situation. We're going to be different in a lot of ways. And hopefully we can learn and grow from this experience. But I know my optimism is probably not what you feel day to day, minute to minute, when you're trying to negotiate work, family, kids, schooling, the economic issues, being cooped up in at home, and all of those things which really weigh on families.
Well, thank you. And that's very well put. Absolutely. I know as a parent, and some of you out there know I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. One of the big struggles has been working from home and trying to manage working at the same time as parenting, and feeling a lot of push and pull between those two things. What advice would you have for parents who are struggling to manage, wanting to be good employees and wanting to be good parents and not being sure how to do both?
I think the first thing I would say is that you're probably better at it than you think you are, because if you're a newly at-home parent, you're not used to that environment and having to work. You're used to the social environment of work, and to be trying to figure out how do you work at home, you're not going to feel very good at it. and you're going to feel like you're not living up to the expectations maybe that your employer has, or not able to be as productive as you could be otherwise. But I think on all levels, we have to give ourselves a little grace and realize that there's no perfect way to do this. There's no right way to do it. Everybody has to craft their own story as they move through this. And your story as a now at-home mom working from home is very different than it was a month ago, in so many ways. But you don't know what it'll be like in a week or 2 weeks, and the tricks you'll find out. One of the things I do worry about is the pressure people feel from social media to be the perfect mom now, or be the perfect dad, and to come up with the perfect activity at every moment, at the same time that they're being the perfect employee and supporting their business all the time. Well, that just isn't possible. And I think we have to give ourselves a little slack and a little grace and time to figure it out. You don't know what you don't know yet. I can't hear you. Or I can't hear you. I couldn't hear anything that Laura said. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you some advice that I would give you. I think, one of the things that's really important is to, as I said, to give yourself grace, to realize as a parent, if you are the parent who's now working from home, think about all the things that you've lost in your life, or that are just not present in your life right now. The time alone that you have in your car to get to work, that the freedom you have to chit chat with the people you work with while you're at work, the time to be quiet in your cubicle or to focus on something that has nothing to do with your kids. All of that is something that maybe is not possible to do at home. And some of those things I think you have to build into your daily schedule. I'm a real advocate of doing the same daily routines that you ordinarily would do. Get up close to the same time, take your shower, brush your teeth, put your makeup on, make your breakfast, make your cup of coffee, get your kids ready for the day. Those are grounding activities. And if we give those up, then we haven't begun our day in a way that feels successful and positive for us. And I think it's also then reassuring to kids that things are the same. Mommy and daddy still get up and they have their coffee, and we have breakfast, and maybe we pack our backpack. Maybe we don't go anywhere with a backpack, but mommy's going to go into where she works, and daddy's going to go into his corner where he's going to work, and I'm going to go work on my Legos, or I'm going to color for a while. I'm going to do whatever my activity is for this period of time. Which really does, the structure is really helpful. The other thing, I learned this from a neighbor, just in conversation. I heard her talking to her mom, and she's a third grader, and her mom said, well, it's time to go inside for lunch. And this was before we were totally shut down. And she said, is it my lunchtime at school? And I thought, yes, it needs to be your lunch. That's when you need to have lunch at home, is when you have lunch at school. And you need to have recess the way you do at school, because those things were really reassuring to a young child. And also give the parents a break. They can use the school schedule to schedule their lives as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, Susan, and can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can.
Good. Okay. Glad to hear it. That's a really good segue into the question. We had a little technical glitch there with the sound. Into the question that we had from April on our Facebook page, who was wondering how to talk to kids about this and how to create some support and structure in their life. April specifically has a 7-year-old, if that helps. But I know we have a wide range of ages on the call. So you segued really beautifully into that, talking about the structure. But what other thoughts do you have about supporting children during this time?
I think in terms of talking to your kids about this, first of all, find out what they already know. They may have a lot of ideas. They may have heard a lot of things. And to, kind of start where they are. Depending on the age of the child, you don't have to give them all of the information, but a simple explanation of that there is an illness that we don't understand yet, and it's traveled very fast from the places in the world that it started. And, we're trying very hard to keep everybody healthy and safe. And this is why I'm asking you to wash your hands, and this is why you couldn't go to school. But then ask what their questions are. What do you want to know? I think one of the things that I would encourage all parents to do is turn off the TV or social, whatever. Not only just because of the video. I mean, just you can spend too much time in front of the TV, but kids don't need to hear. They will listen. And if you're listening to the news all day long, that is the drumbeat in the back of their little script that they're playing out. That's what they're hearing, and it's scary because they don't really understand it, and they don't understand why you're listening to the TV all the time, and they'll hear every once in a while they'll hear death, and they'll hear sickness, and they don't need to hear that all the time. You don't need to hear that all the time. I think I would kind of schedule for yourself as an adult a couple times a day to find out if you really need to find out. The news doesn't change that much. This is not a tsunami that is going to, engulf us. This is not a horrible snowstorm that is going, to break the electric lines. And, this is a different kind of crisis and a different kind of danger and concern that's coming. But the kids don't need to hear it all the time.
Yeah, that's very well put. Thank you. We've got a few more questions rolling in from Facebook, and we appreciate all of our live viewers out there. Welcome, everybody. And if you're just now tuning in, we're here with Susan Voorhees, licensed psychologist, who's answering your questions today. And you can ask questions either by posting them on our Facebook on this post, or you can also message our page with those questions. Either one will work. Megan Godfrey says, hi, friends. Hi, Megan. Good to see you. We have a lot of really loyal, wonderful members at the Discovery Center who we miss. We miss you. We miss your kids. And we cannot wait to have you back at the Discovery Center playing with us again. We also have a question from Brandy, who also was asking about a 7-year-old. 7-year-olds are really needing the support tonight, it sounds like. Any suggestions on anger outbursts that are a result of anxiety for a kiddo that age?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's helpful is to directly address the anger and what are they really angry about. If we don't allow kids to talk about the things they're afraid of, if we just try to say, don't be angry, don't feel that way, then they don't have permission to really express their feelings. So we want them to express their feelings, but we want them to handle it in appropriate ways. So for a 7-year-old, part of the anger is probably being stuck at home, missing their friends, missing their teacher. They're making attachments outside of the family and outside of the parents' world, and they miss those people. And to address what you feel may be behind the anger. You may be angry that you can't go to the Discovery Center. You may be angry that we can't go play a McDonald's playground. And if you're right about the cause of the anger, it should help the anger decrease because you've given them a voice, you've allowed them to talk about it, and then explain that you can talk to me about your anger, but you can't hit your little brother, you can't rip up your toys. One of the things that's important is the rules are the rules are the rules, regardless of what's happened. And the same rules of behavior that have been in a family should stay in effect. We're not going to give kids a pass on naughty behavior just because we're all cooped up together in a house. So, to explain that feeling the way you feel is legitimate, acting it out, that's not allowed. So we're going to talk about it. I think the other thing, and it may be helpful for all kids, but maybe 7-year-olds, maybe, everybody find a place in the house that's their go-to alone place. Everybody in the family needs a place to chill, a place to calm down, a place to be their own. Nobody in the family is used to this much family time. And I think to help, especially, school-aged kids, what do they want to take to their quiet place? What stuffed animal, what book, what beanbag, what are the comfort items that they would like to be there? And when you feel your child kind of ramping up, to begin to direct them to their quiet place, to calm down, and then come back and talk to you about what's going on. Now, if you're in the middle of working, you're not going to be able to address it right then, but you can say, we'll talk when mommy's finished working, but I'm working right now. And that may be also part of the anger outbursts that at all ages, children expect us to be available whenever they want us to be available, because we aren't really people. We're just there to take care of them. So setting those limits and boundaries, which you could do if you were leaving the house, but you can't do it now if you're going to the other side of the dining room to work. So we need to kind of construct those separateness and the new rules of how we're doing things. Nobody's going to get it right away. It's, don't believe it if your friend posts that it's working like a charm. I have a lot of years of experience of giving this advice, and I know it doesn't work at first, but it will if you are consistent and reliable and predictable, because that will bring down your child's anxiety.
Thank you.
So, Brandy, I hope that helped.
I hope it did. That is so difficult. My 5-year-old has been struggling not as much with the anger, but just with the energy, high bursts of energy in which she is just running around and jumping on things, and difficult to manage those sorts of things, especially when we have these days where the weather is not as great, when we can't just go outside. And, a lot of families don't have a lot of options to go outside. Now that we have playgrounds that are closed, that's limiting families without a lot of backyard space to be able to get outdoor time. We encourage outdoor time. I know it's great, but it's easier for some families than it is for others. So for families that do find themselves kind of stuck indoors with those high energy kiddos, any tips for us?
Well, one of the things I would do is open your windows. So you bring the outdoors in. But also, and this, Laura, from the Discovery Center, you can go out in any kind of weather. They just change your clothing options. And really, kids, if you think about it, the rules for kids on recess are if the temperature is above a certain point, they have recess. Well, how do you build a recess? Even if you're in a little apartment, maybe the first thing you do in the morning is you go for a walk before everybody else in the neighborhood is out. So you get some of that. And then, you can build in some, when you feel the energy ramping up, everybody does jumping jacks. Everybody does some yoga stretches. You stop what you're doing, you attend to the high need of the child, and then you let them figure it out. And help them, direct them to things that, for a 5-year-old, she has some options. She knows some things she can do. She may not really want to. She'd rather disrupt everybody else. But, running up and down the front porch steps 5 times, maybe it's raining, going out and playing in the puddles, seeing how muddy she can get her boots. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can tweak things for small periods of time to give kids an outlet. I think also one of the things to sort of watch is our kids, when we've been working and the kids have been in childcare or in school, they're not used to us that much either. And part of what the kids are reacting to is, oh my God, my mother never leaves. I never get to go see my teacher. And my mom is always on me about something. It's stop doing that or do this or, because you're in mother mode all the time. And, to just say, okay, everybody needs to roll around the living room floor for, how many times can we tumble off the couch? We're not going to do it all the time, but we need to do it right now. May help your kids see you in a little bit different way. And then you put the limit back, and now mommy's going back to work.
Mm-hmm. I like those tips a lot. I'll note also that folks who are watching, I know we have a lot of folks watching, and of course, you can ask questions on the messenger by messaging our page, or you can post them to this. But also feel free to share your tips. Share thoughts with other parents. We have a lot of parents who are watching. If you have an idea or a thought or something that's helped you, share your favorite activity you guys have done together. Share your best idea you've had to help manage during this time at home. We'd love to hear from parents about what you're doing too. So absolutely. So we have another question, looks like from Kayla, and she says, any suggestions for outright refusal to do anything non-preferred?
Well, I don't know how old your child is, Kayla, but all of us like to have choices. And sometimes it's the way you present the non-preferred activity. You can do it now or you can do it later. You can do it, you can put your shoes on before you go downstairs or after you do. You can brush your teeth, now or later. I mean, the now or later is oftenly a very good one, but where the child feels they have some agency and some control, but you still are getting what you want done. If it's truly their choice is to do something outrageous, sometimes what really works with, certainly older elementary school kids on up is to, well, if we did that, and then what would we do? And then talk to them about it. Let them talk their idea out instead of, often stressed parents, when you hear what you don't want to hear from your child, you turn it off right away. You cut it off right there. No, we're not doing that. No, you have to do this. Well, if you don't, if you only ate Cheez-Its, how do you think you would feel in a couple hours? Oh, I'd love it. Really? And then what would happen when your brother wanted them and you'd eaten all of them? Let them get involved in some of the problem solving so that they have some buy-in to situations. I think one of the things that's really hard about the current situation is nobody feels in control. And so you have parents who they can't control anything. And so when kids are saying, but why can't I go out? Well, I wish you could, but I can't control that. Well, sometimes we have to, lay it at the foot of, there's an illness out there. We're trying to control it. The governor has asked us to stay home. The governor has told us to stay home. What we know is that it passes from person to person. If we stay away from people, then we are less likely to get sick. More explanation and sort of talking it through, but also listening to yourself. What am I worried about? What is going on with me and my sense of control? I don't know when I'm going to go back to work. I don't know if my job is secure. I don't know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to your question. And that's not a comfortable feeling for a parent.
Wow. Yeah, that's well put, and that's a huge struggle, Kayla, I think for many parents. So I'm really glad you asked that question. Thank you for that. We're getting some good suggestions too from some of our Facebook watchers. Jenny posted, I think she was referencing our really high energy time conversation. She said her dogs are going through the same thing, which I feel my dog is also having some high energy times, Jenny. So I'm glad you said that. But Jenny shared a really good idea too. She has this fun game. She says, we played Keep the Balloon Off the Floor. We said the balloon was the balloonavirus, and if it hit the ground, that person would get the giggles. Kept us busy, and we were all laughing and getting a little bit of exercise too.
That's a great idea.
I thought so too. I love the idea of getting the giggles.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Megan also is sharing some good ideas. She says we've been doing just dance videos on YouTube. We've also been doing some YouTube dance parties, Megan. Sounds super fun and great idea. And Megan also says we've been playing some board games on the patio table.
And that's a good idea. Those are things you probably, a lot of families haven't done in a long time. Think of the games you played as a child. You know, one of the things kids love to hear about is what your childhood was like. Because, you know, kids are pretty egocentric. And you were created the same time they were created. They don't know what you were like as a child. So to go back and, you know, play some of the old-timey games that maybe are not as popular now for the kids, they may really enjoy that. The other piece, sort of a riff on playing that, is make up your own games. You know, if you take Uno, what other rules could you make? It's, you know, it's just your family Uno game, and how do you play that game? Which may keep kids engaged. It also may keep them a little more cognitively engaged as well. I think dogs are the ones who are gaining the most out of this because they get so much attention. They're going to be really heartbroken when everybody goes away again.
Oh, but they're so helpful. Shout out to the dogs out there.
Yeah.
All the dogs, all the cats, all the pets that are helping get us through. We all need those. That's awesome. Feel free to share cute dog pictures in the comments as well. I don't know that we'll use those in any way in the chat. I would just like to see them. So feel free to use those. Yeah, Susan and I are both all totally here for the cute dog pictures. So we're open to that too. Savannah, though, has a really great question. And I have a friend who is in an incredibly similar situation to Savannah. Any suggestions for a high energy 1-year-old? She is so social, and I can tell she misses daycare. I want to encourage her social butterfly personality while also working from home full time.
Yeah, it's those little guys that I worry about the most, because the socialization at daycare is such a big part of their development, or places like the Discovery Center or playgroups or the park or anywhere where they're seeing other kids their size and modeling. It's so important for language development, particularly, and social emotional development. One of the things I would think about is, and you can use it also with YouTube, but having playtimes on the computer, on Zoom or on FaceTime, or, where they do get to see their friends. They're going to be 1-year-olds, and they're not going to look very much, but they're probably used to FaceTiming grandma or having lunch with grandma, but they could have lunch with their friend. If you have contact information for any of their little friends from daycare. The other thing is if the daycare provider would be willing to read a story to her over FaceTime, or, do with her, play, some patty cake or peekaboo or things like that are games she's used to playing at daycare. That can be really helpful to that age group.
And I would add, reach out to those other parents. I know for me as a parent, I have this idea where I have parents I'm friends with, and then there are the parents of the kids who are in my daughter's class. And I felt uncomfortable at first reaching out to them and saying, hey, can we set up a Zoom play date? Because I didn't feel like I had relationships with those parents that were existing. Everybody I contacted was thrilled, and I've been thrilled to have those contacts. So I think this is a time when all of us are looking for more support. Reach out. It's okay. It's a good time to do it.
Remember that the other parents need the break that you need. Mm-hmm. And if your daughter and her friend play dolls or build Legos or do imaginative play while Zooming together, that gives you a break. But it also is giving the other parent a break too. And it's really valuable for those kids.
Mm-hmm. Susan, we had a question come in through Messenger asking about your tips or ideas for maintaining a healthy relationship with someone's co-parent. So your co-parent or your spouse, many of these co-parents are in situations where they're both having to try to pull off full-time working from home hours, managing the stress of co-parenting, which is always difficult. And we don't, it doesn't specify if we're talking about people in the same household or different households. Those could be whole different questions maybe, but maybe we could start with same household, you're co-parenting, you're managing stress together. How do you keep that relationship healthy?
Laura, that it's the same with any parenting relationship. You're better parents if you communicate with each other and if you spend some time talking with each other. And I know that's very difficult in a lot of divorce situations or a lot of separation situations. But this is a time that really dramatically shows us how vital it is to the success of your kids and your ability to parent. If you talk to the other parent about what you're thinking about your child, if it's not a friendly relationship, you share a child, and the focus of your discussion should be what are you doing at if they're in different houses, what are you doing in your house when she goes out of control and starts hitting and running? What are you doing about nap times because they don't want to sleep now? What do or what are some games that you play there that we could play here? So I know that's really difficult for a lot of families who are trying to co-parent the best they can, but we know that children are most successful if parents will communicate with each other. And it's true even if you're living in the same house and you're trying to co-parent. If you and the other parent have very different ideas about what you do when work is interrupted, or what you do when they choose when you're really involved in something to go pick on their sibling, the kids are going to pick that up right away and they're going to run with it. And often what we have to remember is negative behavior. Kids just want attention, and they will get it however they can get it. And if they get it by acting out, that's fine with them because they've got the attention. And they don't understand why you're home and you're not paying attention to them. That's totally wrong. You come home to pay attention to them. You don't come home to talk to your boss on the computer. So I think paying attention to the messages that the kids are sending us, and they aren't going to be verbal messages because kids don't talk about their feelings very easily and openly, but their behavior will often tell us a lot.
Yeah. So another thought I have, and again, folks, feel free to post your questions or message us those. At the Discovery Center, we talk a lot about the importance of play, and especially unstructured play. Mm-hmm. Now, more than ever, kids are needing that. I wonder if you can talk, using your background and experience, about why play is important for kids right now, and what kind of play is important for kids.
Well, almost any kind of play is important for kids, but play is children's work. Play is the way they learn. Play is the way they grow intellectually, emotionally. It's the way they experience their world. It's the way they process their emotions and their feelings. And so it's vital to allow children of all ages to play and to encourage that play and to not try to micromanage the play, but to let it be a free expression of how they're feeling. One of the things that parents might think about, especially for little kids where you're thinking that they're anxious about health issues or what does this virus mean, or to get out the doctor kit that they may have in the bottom of the toy chest. Play doctor, or listen to what your children are playing when they're not interacting with you, and that will tell you a lot. But I think to encourage play, even to encourage older children to go back to playing, for your teenagers to bring out the Legos and see what they can create. Have your own Lego contest of what they can create. It allows them to relax and get back into that medium, which is so critical for children.
Mm-hmm. We did have a viewer comment to get back to our previous discussion when we were talking about co-parenting, especially in different households. And this viewer commented, as a kid from a divorced household, it was never a competition in my head. I remember doing fun things with them, even if it was the same thing.
That's a wonderful comment, because that's what it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, Laura, one of the things I would like just to bring up, and it may be interesting to see how some of our viewers who are in this situation have dealt with this, but situations in which the parents are co-parenting from separate houses and they interpret the guidelines for social distancing, for staying at home, washing hands, whatever, differently. And I think unfortunately we all don't see that it's important to quarantine ourselves. We don't understand it. Or we may, one of the parents may have teenage kids in the home as well, and they've got young kids, and those teenagers are not following the rules, and they're going out, or the parents are letting them go out and be with their friends, and they're bringing, possibly bringing the virus back home. And that's often a very scary situation for parents when they don't have control over what goes on at another house.
That really makes me think of a situation my family's been in that I know a lot of my friends have as well. You're out on a walk and you've told your kids playgrounds are closed and playgrounds are not a place we can go right now, but they see other kids playing on the playground. Mm-hmm. What do you say?
Well, they have different rules in that family. And what are the rules we have in our family? I can only control what goes on in my family. I don't know those parents. I can't control the decisions those parents are making. I always have to make the decisions I think that are the best for you. And I think you count on me making those decisions for you. So I know you don't like it. I know it doesn't seem like it's fair, but this is the decision I'm making for you. You can be angry about it. I'm kind of angry that they're on the playground too. It doesn't seem fair to me either. The playgrounds were closed, and apparently those people have a different idea of what that means, but what your dad and I, or what grandma and I, or what I think about that. And again, encourage them to talk about their feelings about that. Mm-hmm. But the end is you stick with what your rule is.
Mm-hmm. I know we have a number of folks. Oh, and I should share too. Great comment here from Gina, one of our viewers. We are all learning during this time. Parents, be patient with yourselves and you will find your rhythm.
Thank you, Gina. That's wonderful.
I agree. Excellent comment. Thank you. And parents out there, share your advice and thoughts for other parents on the message thread. We'll be sharing those, and that is a big help for lots of us. One, I know we have a number of people out there who are parents of teens, and a lot of our conversation so far has been scheduled, has been really around younger children. Of course, a lot of our folks at the Discovery Center have littles, but many of them also have bigs. Thoughts for teenagers during this time and being parents of teens, which is always difficult, and what that looks like.
I think probably the social distancing and the sadness, the true sadness that kids feel about the loss of the school year, because that's their social life. And I've talked to a lot of kids who are losing prom, and they're losing the last softball game, or the last tennis match, or they're losing graduation, and those are major life events for teenagers. And I think that it's important not to minimize their feelings, but again, to help them and go back to understand these are the decisions that we are making to keep you safe. And you can have your friends come, you can sit in the garage, and your friends can be at the end of the driveway, but no, you're not going out with them to play basketball. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to your siblings. And that's exactly the way that we can't control this. I think one of the things to talk to teenagers about is the more that we follow the guidelines that we're being given, the quicker this is going to be over. We're going to get some control over this virus. And you can see it like in places where the governors have not shut down the states, and there are big outbreaks of the virus at various places. And unfortunately, this is a kind of illness that we just this is what we have to do. It's not going to be an easy time for parents of teenagers. And I think it really stretches, maybe for some parents, their empathy with their teenager who's being kind of surly and negative and, hiding in their room and not wanting to talk. But this is a significant impact on their lives.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned schoolwork a few times. With digital schooling, kids are doing such different things, and parents are being put into situations, of course, they're not used to. But, is it healthy for kids to be spending the same amount of time doing digital schooling, sitting at a screen, that they would have been at normal school? What should kids be doing? And is it okay for them to take a break for play?
Yeah, it's absolutely okay to take a break. And if you look at least what I've heard, and I'd be interested if other people have any different experience of this, school is only about an hour and a half long for most of the public schools. Nobody can sit in front of a screen for 8 hours a day. I mean, some people can, but it's probably not healthy even for the people who really can. But yeah, I think, as much as you can allow your children to take a break, the other thing is to not be too hard on them. Parents are seeing their children at school now in a way that they haven't before, and they're able to be more supervisory of their schoolwork maybe than they have been before. And they have to give their kids a break and give their kids the benefit of the doubt that the child is the one who has to negotiate this online school thing. They don't like it. I mean, I've not heard one child who really thinks it's the greatest thing. And they're also, it changes their relationship both with learning and with their teachers, as well as with their peers. So I think, especially now in the beginning, we have to give them some grace period to just, if it's too much, it's too much. It doesn't mean you can't say, okay, you can get off the computer, but what book are you reading? What math problems, games can we play? Things like that, where there's still learning going on. It's maybe just different.
A great question from Megan. What do you think are some of the long-term effects that this will have for us as parents and for our kids?
Megan, I'm going to be positive and optimistic about this. I think one of the things is we're going to know our kids a lot better than we did, and our kids are going to know us a lot better than they did. If you think about the amount of time, I don't know how old your children are, but that your children have spent away from you, and now they don't have that away time. And we have to build that into their schedules so that they can continue to grow and individuate and differentiate themselves from us, which is the normal and healthy course of child development. But I think if we see this as sort of a voyage that we're all on together, and your family is on this voyage together, you don't really know where you're going, but you're out there together figuring out how to sail through this. Some days are going to be good, some days are going to be bad. Always remember as parents that when you've had a really bad day, it's okay to apologize. It's okay to say, I really handled that wrong, I'm sorry. And it's good for the kids to see you doing that. But it's also okay to say, you really handled that wrong, and can we go back and redo that again? I think we can have it can have a positive, and I think we have to keep that in mind, that really we're all doing the best we can, but inherently we're really good people. We love our kids love us, and this is very stressful, but the stress doesn't have to define the moment.
You actually, that kind of almost might beautifully answer the question we just got on Messenger, but you might have additional thoughts. I'll still share it. Before I do, we have Heather on the chat now, who says, hi all. And of course, Heather is one of our staff at the Discovery Center, who is often at the desk. She's our floor manager, and she is awesome. And many of you know her, and we've been in communication with her regularly. She misses a lot of you too, and looks forward to the Discovery Center being open so she can see all of you again. In the meantime, like the rest of us, she's working from home. But I will say working from home is nowhere near as fun as working at the Discovery Center. So we are excited to be back and see you all. The question we got from Messenger is, how do parents acknowledge their own worry? Should they always project confidence?
No, I think if you're honest about your kids need the model of honesty and true feelings. They need to know it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be, just like it's okay to be happy. It's kind of what we do with those feelings. So, if you're stressed and you've had it with your spouse and your kids, and you take it out on them, that's not positive. But if you talk to the kids about how you're feeling, and not as you would your parent or your friends, but just admit how you're feeling and be honest with your feelings, then that really helps. You're modeling for your kids honesty and feelings and communication about feelings, and that's the way they are going to learn. I think one of the things that is really important is that spouses, partners, co-parents who are living together, that they carve out some time for themselves alone, but also together. That's different than the time with the kids, so that there's a time to touch base in the early morning before the kids are up, or maybe it's late at night. Just kind of, how are you doing? What's going on? I want to know what's going on in your life. I'm terrified of this. Help me deal with this. Whatever the issue is, it's really important. But it's also important for parents to have time away from everybody and time alone, even if it's, sitting in the car in the driveway. Everybody needs that. The kids need it too. And, there may be that part of your schedule in the day is everybody goes to their corners and they have to do something quiet, and there's a no talking rule for 15 minutes. But, everybody needs a little downtime.
I'd like a show of hands from all the parents who are watching right now who have had alone time in your car. And that would include me in the car, sitting out on the parking pad.
Uh-huh.
If you've done it, I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
We're getting into our last 10 minutes, Susan, and it wouldn't surprise me if we have more questions roll in. But what thoughts do you have that you wanted to make sure you could share with parents tonight? I want to make sure you get an opportunity to do that.
I think what I really would like to share for parents is don't be too hard on yourselves. You're not going to get this right away. Nobody's getting it right. We're all trying to figure it out, to make use of the resources you have, but also to take care of yourself. It's very easy to get totally overwhelmed with taking care of your kids. And then maybe taking care of your spouse, and then taking care of your job, or some order of those things. And taking care of yourself isn't in that order. And that's what I would put really high on the list, because you're not going to be able to take care of everybody else if you're not taking care of yourself. And that includes, good hygiene, pampering yourself when you can, eating well, hydrating well, not drinking too much, which is, something that apparently liquor stores are essential businesses. And, I'm not saying I don't like my glass of wine, but I know that, that's an escape. And we have to be very careful about that when we're under so much stress. And part of it is to keep yourself healthy. And, stress play is a significant factor in getting ill. And we want to be careful. So maybe you rotate, maybe you and the dog go out for 15 minutes, and then your spouse and the kids go out, and then you switch. But I think you have to really take care of yourself and take care of your relationships with everyone.
Mm-hmm. That's really well put. We were joking before. Oh yeah, you're fine. We were talking before we started the live about showering every day and the importance of that. I won't share information that was shared before the live began about frequency of showering from our staff, but I'll just say we all agree that is helpful. One thing that I found that's really helpful is drinking more water. Yeah. I found that if I get dehydrated, that really has an impact on my mental health, and that the more water I'm drinking, the happier I tend to be. So I've got some water goals. I have a checklist. I make sure I'm getting everything I can.
And I think one of the things for parents to think about is you can only control the things you can control. You can't control so many things. And in this situation that we're in right now, it feels like so much is out of control. Mm-hmm. But, you can control most of what goes on in your house. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. We've been having Susan talk so much. She's shared so much good info. We certainly have time. If folks have a last minute question, that's fine. I'll go ahead and share that we have some really great discovery at home activities coming up in the next week. And one that I think works really well with what Susan was just talking about, with the importance of self-care and taking that time and doing some things physically that are helpful too. Tomorrow, our Discovery at Home video, and those launch at 10 a.m. on our Facebook page, Instagram, and website, and we link to those on Twitter as well, is going to be Kathy Dameron, who's a local yoga instructor and a friend of the Discovery Center, doing a breathing exercise that parents and kids can do together or separately. And either way, it's great. I tried it earlier. I loved it. And she has some awesome ways to get kids doing some basic relaxation techniques. They get to pose like a frog and do some other really fun things in the video. So that will drop tomorrow at 10 a.m. on our Facebook page. And I think that's a really good accompaniment to what Susan's been talking about tonight. The other thing that's a great accompaniment to it is next week. because we cannot have Susan join us just once. We told her if she was going to do this, she had to do it at least 3 times. So Susan is scheduled to join us, same bat time, same bat channel, on the next 2 Thursdays, same time here on Facebook Live. And we would welcome your questions in the interim. You can post them again on our Facebook, or you can message our page with them. Either way would be fine, and we will make sure those get to Susan next week, or if it's something that she can answer in the interim on the messenger, I'll try to funnel those her way as well. So we're available. We're here for you. We're ready to support you, online, offline, whatever that looks like. So message us if you have questions, or you can post them on this thread. I'll make sure they get to where they need to go. If you have suggestions for things that you'd like to hear Susan talk about next week, or any topics you'd like to have her address, please share those with us. If you have any other suggestions for Discovery at Home, if there's a certain activity, if there's a public health expert or somebody who shares expertise that you'd like to have us bring on for a session like this, we'd like to hear from you. These evolved from parents telling us they needed more support. This was all of you who are watching Discovery at Home videos who were saying, hey, building towers is awesome, but I really need to talk to somebody who understands what's going on. And so we welcome your suggestions. We will develop whatever we can to make sure we're meeting your needs, and keep those comments coming and questions coming throughout the next week. Susan, any final thoughts?
Stay healthy, do something fun for yourself, and do something silly with your kids, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Nobody's doing it any better than you are.
Oh my gosh. Boy, did I need to hear that, Susan. Me and everybody else who's watching. Bye, friends. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.